At 6:03 a.m., a tow truck idled at my curb. The HOA president stood on my porch with two guys in black polos, and my 8-year-old tried to peek around my elbow with a cereal bowl in his hands. That was the moment I realized this wasn't about rules. It was about control. And I was done being polite. My name's Damon Cole. I bought a little place in Maple Ridge Meadows, just outside Henderson, Nevada. A red door. I painted myself a strip of concrete for my HVAC van. A hoop I promised my kid. Quiet evenings with sprinklers ticking, and a neighbor's radio humming simple until the sunrise patrol started knocking. First time I met our HOA president, Cheryl Pratt, she had mirrored sunglasses, a clipboard, and a ruler she tapped like a metronome. Mr. Cole, your planter. Boxes are 3 inches over regulation depth. That's a $450 citation. Please initial, she said. I still had pillow lines on my face. It's 6 a.m. I said compliance doesn't keep banker's hours. She replied, and you could hear in her voice she liked saying it. After that, it was a drip of gotchas. A photo of my van taped to my door from an angle that made it look like I'd parked on the lawn. A mailbox note about an unauthorized flag bracket that came with the house and email. In all caps, final warning, commercial vehicle. Move it behind a 6-foot screen or daily fines begin. You know what I mean, not rules theater. I've dealt with worse. I did 2 tours as a supply NCO, kept convoys moving when maps lied and radios died. So I sent polite emails, asked for the rule book, sat through a new owner's orientation, and raised my hand like a guy trying to do it right. Cheryl smiled with her teeth and talked over me. We maintain standards. Standards is the word you're looking for, she said, and I swallowed it, thinking I didn't come home to fight about planter boxes. Then a certified letter landed. Notice of intent to lien. Charges stacked like chips. Unapproved modifications. Visible work vehicle safety concerns regarding firearms on premises that line right there. Safety concerns told me they weren't just collecting money anymore. They were rehearsing power. A week later, 6:03. Again, Cheryl shows up flanked by 2 men in matching polos that said Maple Ridge Compliance Team in cheap thread. Dark SUV. No front plate. The short one held a folder like a magic prop and announced an emergency safety inspection to secure hazardous items. I clicked on the porch cam, lifted my phone, and said the same calm thing. I say to anyone who makes noise at my door, show me the statute and the court order. The tall guy held up a single sheet. The seal looked stretched like it got dragged wide in a Word doc. The header said, County Enforcement Division. The signature block said, Officer McKinnon, Code Patrol. We don't have Code Patrol. The short one wore mismatched tactical boots and a badge clip. You could buy next to Halloween costumes. Cosplay, and not even good cosplay. Mr. Cole. You're making this adversarial. Let us in and we can resolve this quickly, Cheryl said, not breaking eye contact. I'm not letting you in without a court order, and you're not taking my truck. I said. She turned and gave a little wave, and the tow truck started backing down my driveway. In front of my kid neighbors, stopped on the sidewalk, Tom from across the street called, Hey Cheryl. This looks out of hand. She didn't look at him. Rules apply to everyone. She said even him, and you could feel the way that landed. I hit the remote on my belt and turned eyed into noon. Floodlights snapped on across the eaves. Shadows gone. Faces lit. You're on camera, I said. Everything is recorded. If you have a court order, we'll see it. If you don't, you're trespassing silence, stretch the kind where folks start to show who they are. The tall one flexed his jaw. The short one glanced at the SUV. Cheryl's smile tightened. Jen wandered up with a coffee mug and whispered, "They fined me for my wreath last Christmas. I just paid. I didn't want trouble." And I nodded without taking my eyes off the paper. The tow driver looked at his paperwork and looked at me. They told me it was cleared. He said, "They is the biggest red flag in any sentence." Right about then, my cousin Alyssa pulled up fast. Paralegal downtown. Sharp as a box cutter. She scanned the emergency authorization and said, "It plain, so everyone heard the seal is wrong. The title doesn't exist and these names aren't in the county directory, and Maple Ridge Compliance Team isn't a registered vendor. No contract, no vote, no W-9. Yeah, that happened. I called the sheriff on speaker, described the paper. The no-plate SUV. The tow attempt, the dispatcher said. An officer will call you back. Do not let anyone in. Without a court order. Neighbors drifted closer. Phones came up. Cheryl announced a special board meeting that night to discuss my violations and possibly suspend my voting rights. Classic bully play, isolate the squeaky wheel and make him the show great. I said, public forum. Bring the records. That afternoon, a tow tag still showed up under my windshield fines, and the portal ticked like a slot machine. $450 to $1, $300 to $2, $250 pool. Access revoked pending safety review. They went after my kid's key fob. Because nothing says public safety like punishing third graders. I got mad, then I got methodical, printed, every email logged, every knock. With Times filed a records request for minutes votes and vendor contracts, then posted a sticky note on the community board. Owner's right to records. Saturday, my porch, bring your letters. 5 neighbors came that night, which in HOA math is basically a revolution. Jean brought the wreath citation. Tom slid over a letter about decorative clutter that turned out to be chalk art. A retired couple handed me a photo so zoomed on a grass edge you could count pixels. Alyssa spread pages on my table and built a timeline that would make a detective nod first track of the minutes. Claimed 62 votes to authorize enhanced compliance. The roll sheet showed 41 signatures. Not a quorum fiction. Second crack, the compliance team had no contract, no insurance, no vote. A ghost vendor doing the ugly work. We drafted a cease and desist for impersonation of officials, attempted unlawful entry. Conversion for the tow threat fraud. The sheriff's deputy called me back and set it straight. We don't have any emergency entry authorization in this county. If they return, call us. We're opening a report. The community center that night smelled like coffee and hand sanitizer. Folding chairs, a projector, Cheryl at a table with a gavel, like she was about to try a case. First order of business is sanctions against owner Cole, she said. I stood with a thumb drive and said, point of order. Members have the right to see records before sanctions. Time is limited, she said with that smile. So is patience, I said, and plugged in slide 1. Their emergency form blown huge, jagged pixels on the seal. Wrong title. I circled it in red. This is a fake, I said, and if you wave this at people at 6 a.m., that's not enforcement. That's impersonation. Slide 2, vendor records. Maple Ridge Compliance Team. Doesn't exist anywhere that matters if they're not contracted. Who are they? I asked trusted partners. She said we maintain standards. Slide 3, quorum. Math minutes versus signatures. Names read out loud. People in the room said, I wasn't at that meeting. Heads turned, whispers got real slide. 4. A strip of pre-dawn citations between 600 and 6:15 with weird camera angles. Jan raised her hand and pointed. That's my wreath. She said, they told me it lowered property values standards apply to everyone. Cheryl said louder, even him. And the room shifted. The doors opened, and 2 deputies walked in. Badges on radios. Hissing deputy. Oliver gave me a little nod, then faced the board. We've received a report of documents that resemble official orders. We're here to take statements and collect any paperwork used to enter homes or seize property. Cheryl tried private meeting internal discipline, he said, counterfeit document, not internal. Sir, do you have the original? I passed the paper in a clear sleeve. This is evidence now, Oliver said. If anyone else has seen similar forms, I want them before you leave. And I watched the tall and short compliance guys trying to sink into their chairs. You 2 hang tight, he told them. And even from the front, you could feel the fight drain from the back row. This is absurd. Cheryl snapped, Mavil wobbling. We maintain standards if Mr. Cole cared about this community. He'd comply, he wouldn't make a spectacle standards. Don't require fake badges. I said it's standards. Don't require pre-dawn ambushes or a tow truck on a private driveway. Standards have votes and contracts and daylight. This is theater. Alyssa spoke into the mic without raising her voice and copying the same signature block across multiple minutes. Isn't a vote, it's a forgery. She clicked to a slide with identical loops and a tiny glitch copied from page to page. The room made that sound people make when they realize the coin was under the table the whole time. Board member Linda Cho stood hands shaking until they weren't motioned to remove Ms. Pratt as president for cause effective. Immediately, she said. Hands went up fast enough to sound like a wave hitting plywood. Cheryl grabbed for the gavel. It slipped and clattered across the table louder than it should have. Oliver stepped forward. Pratt, we need to speak with you about these documents and the individuals you engaged. She looked at the back row, then at me, and I didn't smile. I just held the mic and let the room get quiet enough to hear the projector fan. That's where a movie would roll credits, but neighborhoods don't do clean endings. Management sent an email saying they were reviewing practices. Fines didn't vanish overnight. Some folks wanted to forget, because forgetting is easier than fixing others. Stopped at my fence with cookies. Apologies or stories they hadn't told. Yet porch lights started coming on earlier. Cameras went up. People asked to see paperwork and didn't take it personal. Jean kept her wreath up all week just because my kid asked if we won. I said we won. The kind of win that matters here, we made it harder to push people around. I'll say the thing that might start a fight in the comments because it's true. Where I live, HOAs aren't all bad. Rules can keep a street from turning into a junkyard. But rules twist when standards turns into a code for who looks right, who parks the right car, who's easy to lean on. They twist. When a clipboard becomes a weapon and a gavel is a costume. They twist when a whole neighborhood outsources courage to one person who likes control too much. So, no, I'm not done. I'll be at the next meeting. The one after my floodlights work, and my cameras are charged, and my questions are plain. Show me proof. You know what I mean? There's a difference between paranoid and prepared preparation, is just respect for how fast ordinary can turn. If this hit a nerve. Tell me, where's the line between standards and straight-up bullying in your town? Have you dealt with a board, a boss, a gatekeeper who stretched their power until it snapped? Or maybe you sat on a board and saw neighbors turn every decision into a war. who gets judged first? Where you live, who gets a pass? Drop your take in the comments. Argue with me if you want, share your story. If you've got one, right and wrong outlive in bylaws. They live in what we tolerate. And if you want more of these real stories, hit subscribe. So this lands in front of someone who's one early morning knock away from giving up.